Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Megan here, the faithful fibromyalgia warrior, back home in Colchester, England. As some of you may have seen, my husband and I were away last week in Portugal on, well, not honeymoon, but we were celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary. Lots happened since then. Um, and the most important thing, the most exciting thing for me, other than we celebrated 25 years together, is that I was feeling, well, a couple of things. I forgot to pack my compression gloves, and to my surprise, I found that while we were there, I didn't need them even once. I wear them mostly to help with my Raynaud's symptoms, but I didn't even need to wear them, which is a first for me. And in fact, I've been trying since we got back. We got back late this Saturday just passed, and I haven't worn those. Even coming home, I haven't been wearing them. And I'm finding my overall circulation is much better. I Not that my fingertips don't sometimes get cold, but even now my wrists don't seem to be as sore or swollen as they used to be from my arthritis. It hasn't been flaring up at nearly as much as it once did. And to me, that's amazing. It just shows me that I'm still continuing to heal. Even if that improvement had not happened, um, I had still felt such a great difference from where I was at 3 years ago to where I am today. That even if these extra improvements hadn't happened, I still would have been very thankful. But it gives me hope that maybe I will heal enough that I will not need a wheelchair any longer. I will not need my crutch or a cane or anything like that. I hope. I don't know if that's what God's plan is or not. For those of you who don't know, I suffered a lower back, lower spinal disc injury 9 years ago. This weekend will be 9 years since I was injured. Okay. And a disc bulged out and it set off my fibromyalgia. And I had so much inflammation and chronic pain, mostly based on what I was eating, but also just because of stress in my life and other existing factors that it just made everything worse. And I felt constantly in pain and like the brain fog was horrible. And I lived with that for 7 years. And it was 3 years ago when I was told I had high levels of bad cholesterol, but even more dangerous was I had extremely high triglycerides. They were double what the acceptable range of normal was. So let's say if the acceptable range was 2.4 parts per millimole um, per liter, well, I was at 4.83. I was double what it should have been. And it wasn't because I necessarily ate nothing but, sugar or cookies and desserts. I actually ate lots and lots of fruit, loads of fruit. And the fructose is what was really affecting my liver. Our livers can only process and hold up to so much sugar in it. And then after that, it has to get rid of it. And that either comes out in the form of triglycerides, which can then lead to other diseases. Also, it can cause you to have fatty liver. And I had fatty liver disease, the beginning stages of it. And even though I was put on a thyroid replacement hormone because my thyroid is underactive, it did not produce enough of the hormone, it did not produce enough of the T4 hormones, which would then be converted and used by the body to affect things like my menstrual cycle, digestion, my metabolism, my emotional mood swings, and things like that. The reason I always felt sort of from one extreme to another was because my thyroid was not functioning as it should have been. So even though I was started on levothyroxine at a low dose, 50 micrograms, okay, I felt zero difference. And even though I did, as the specialist told me to, I did cut down my fruit consumption to just one or two pieces a day instead of six or seven, which is what I was doing. Reducing my fructose intake did help somewhat. However, it was still it was still way outside of the acceptable range. And 3 years ago, at around this time, I was probably at about, 165 pounds, about 40 pounds overweight. I was overweight heading into obese. And by the time May of 2020 came around, I was just over 200 pounds. I was obese. And the crazy thing is that it's not that I was eating lots of food, but I was eating the wrong foods. And I was eating foods that were inflammatory. And I was eating foods that were full of anti nutrients. I was eating foods that were carb based. And so they weren't super filling. Or if they would only keep me full, feeling full and satisfied for maybe a couple of hours. And then I would be hungry again, which is what most of us are told is normal, right? Have cereal or oats for breakfast. Don't eat eggs, don't eat bacon, don't eat sausages. That stuff's so bad for you. It's not true. In fact, it's the plants that cause the issue. The plants, even if we seem to digest them okay, and most of us don't, um, wheat and other products that contain gluten are a good example. Grains and cereals that God created to feed animals with, right? And whether they are domesticated or in the wild, the animals that would eat those things would develop nice fatty marbled muscle meat, which if we ate later would taste delicious, especially the ruminant animals like pigs, or not pigs, sorry, cows, sheep. They had multiple stomachs in order to digest these seeds and grains. And my son is here, but I'm in the middle of a live stream. We'll deal with that later today. Okay? No problem. He's asking about fixing his laptop. We'll find the number and give him a call. Sorry about that, guys. That was my son Aiden. And so ruminant animals were created to have multiple stomach chambers. And actually, so were the primates, like baboons and chimps and orangutans. They are able to eat cellulose. They are designed in just such a way by God that either they have multiple stomachs to break it all down and make use of it, right? Or they have a digestive system wherein it gets broken down slightly differently, but it does get broken down. With for example, with monkeys, they eat their own feces, which helps them break down the final bit of cellulose um, back into their system. So that's how they get their nutrients. Now, we were not designed that way. We were not created to function that way. Thank goodness, because I don't want to eat feces. Thank you very much. Nope, don't want to. But our digestive systems were designed perfectly, I would add, to be able to process, break down, and make use of skeletal muscle meat of animals without any issue. Um, Sometimes maybe we need a little bit more fat to give us that sense of satiety. Perhaps some of us need a little bit more protein. Um, based on what our goals are building. If we're building muscle, if we're say doing resistance training or weight training, perhaps then we want a bit more protein in our diet. For the most part, higher fat is, I think, is better because it allows us to feel more satiated because the fat's there, right? So, ruminant animals. Me, I eat primarily fatty cuts of beef. My favorite, ground beef, fried in a pan or in a skillet with a couple of egg yolks cooked in with it and some crispy pieces of bacon sort of broken up, sprinkled on top. That is my go-to meal. Mm. Sometimes I might have sausage at lunch or maybe sausage now and again at dinner, but generally that's what I eat. Ground beef, bacon, and egg yolks together. Um, but the reason I share this is because once I discovered not only keto and low carb, but once I discovered the truth of how all the nourishment we need comes from the animals, because because of how they eat and how they digest, all the good vitamins gets into their tissues, which when we eat, we then get, right? We do not need to eat any plants. There are some, if you like plants for eating, and certainly, I don't know, I would say you're probably, it depends. If you have a sugar addiction or a sweet tooth, you probably should avoid fruit, okay? Because it's really easy once you get that juicy, sweet taste in your mouth to overeat. And the fructose can be really bad and can contribute to high triglycerides, which can then cause fatty liver disease, which is not good, okay? I would suggest if it's a struggle, and you know yourself best, if that's a struggle, then you probably don't want to, at least for some time, you probably want to stay away from fruit. And if you're going to have fruit at all, I would suggest you probably want something like blueberries, which are relatively low in carbs, not overly sweet. Maybe raspberries, again, not overly sweet. But keep in mind, sometimes they are hard to digest because they are seed fruits that come from seeds. And just because they don't kill us immediately doesn't mean they're good for us, right? Some people like to have a bit of vegetable. I'm not the food police. I'm just telling you what's helped me and what hasn't. You know, if I'm making something for the family and I've cooked up some pieces of carrot, let's say, I try to avoid carrots because they are very starchy. They're also pretty high in carbs and sugar, believe it or not. They're a sweet vegetable. Um, they're also one of the few that would not trigger my IBS immediately. I used to love to snack on them, okay? But they do have carbs. All plants have carbohydrates to some degree or another that I'm aware of. Even lettuce, even iceberg lettuce, although it's probably very, very, very little, all right? But carrots are like a danger for me because I could sit and eat an entire plate full of cooked carrots sprinkled with butter and salt. But within an hour, I'm going to be hungry and I've already overfilled with carbohydrates. Now, what am I going to do? It's just all that gets converted into sugar into my body, and that's not what I want. Okay, so for me, I have to avoid them. Some people want to have a bit of carrot, that's up to them. You know, the best way to describe keto or low carb, if you will, is the way that Casey Durango from Go Keto with Casey likes to talk about it. This is how she learned it from Dr. Eric Westman. And this is what he taught his diabetic patients to do. Keep your total carb intake for the day to 20 grams or less. Now, some people can handle a bit more if they're super athletic. Some people need less than 20. But to be safe, as he said, he wanted to make sure people had a way, right, of doing something that it would work the first time every time. So if you limit your carbohydrates to 20 grams in total for the whole day or less, okay, then you won't go wrong. And of the carbs that you can have, that can include, for example, 1 cupful of non-starchy vegetables maximum. Non-starchy vegetables are things like mushrooms, Brussels sprouts, broccoli. All no-nos for me because I have irritable bowel syndrome, and those things are horrible. And let's face it, these are foods notorious for causing gas in those of us that have the least sensitive of guts. Never mind someone who has struggled with leaky gut, IBS, and digestive issues for over a decade. So I'm not going to eat those. The other thing is they say you can have up to 2 cups, it's about 2 fistfuls of dark leafy greens maximum in a day if you wish. Okay. Dark leafy greens, again, full of oxalates and anti-nutrients. Some people need a little bit of something like that to help them to transition over to know that, okay, if I can at least have some dark leafy greens, like maybe romaine lettuce with Caesar dressing, skip the croutons, fine. That's what they need. That works. Great. I hope it helps them. However, I personally would prefer to fill up on the animal meats because that's where the power and the healing and the nutrition is. There may be very few calories in romaine lettuce or spinach and baby kale, but there's a buttload of oxalates. And those things can lead towards kidney stones and gallstones. Um, Sally K. Norton is kind of like the renowned world expert on this, and she knows what she's talking about. But that can lead to inflammation and joint pain and arthritis flare ups. Even if you've never had arthritis in your life, but you start eating all sorts of like spinach and kale and all these things, be careful because oxalates can cause these symptoms in your body. And it can take a long time to get rid of all of it. Some years ago, my husband and I decided it would be fun to go vegetarian for about almost a year. I didn't make it that long. I had to start including chicken because I hate fish. And then I was okay with vegetables, but I had to have at least chicken in my diet. Or I would have ham if it was on offer, or I would have to have a little bit of turkey at Christmas, or a bit of bacon. Because the truth was, I was malnourished being strictly vegetables. There was not enough nourishment from the plants into my body. Not only that, some of the things I was eating, like spinach and kale and romaine lettuce and celery, all of these fibrous vegetables are very hard to digest. And in fact, I was not digesting them effectively at all. I was absorbing very little. And from the very little that I absorbed, very little of that was actually nourishing me, which is why I was feeling so exhausted and headachy and just inflamed constantly. And this was even before back injury. Okay. So that was for me. Causing bloating, gas, just all kinds of unpleasant side effects. So there are people who seem to do okay with the non-starchy veggies. Good for them. If they enjoy it and they do okay with it and they like to eat that stuff, go for it. I'm not going to say no, but I just know that I can't, right? So from my personal experience, I can't have any of that. If you're someone who can, that's great, truly. And if you like to have a few little Brussels sprouts sautéed in butter, or maybe with some pancetta, like at Christmas time as a side dish with some turkey, or with a roast beef, or whatever you happen to do, fantastic. I know that I couldn't. I would be bloated like a helium balloon within 5 minutes max. Okay, which would also cause inflammation and incredible pain. So I don't eat that stuff. That's keto though, if you're the strict form of keto. Okay, so your total carbs can come from some non-starchy vegetables and leafy greens, and or okay, you can have some limited amounts of, say, full fat cream, like in your coffee, if you drink coffee or tea. Can be like up to 4 ounces of cheese per day. That sort of like, or a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons of sour cream, or you know, if you handle dairy. And if you don't do well with dairy, well, fine, then don't have it. Now, there are a lot of people who are out there talking about the lion diet, which I think is really cool. It's a bit too strict for me. The lion diet is simply this: muscle meat, salt, and water. Now, me personally, I like my coffee. I enjoy a really good cup of coffee. We had some fantastic coffee in Portugal. I love a really good cup of coffee, nice single origin Brazilian blend or whatever. So I am not prepared to let go of that. Now, that is my choice. Would I probably be a little bit better off if I did? Probably. But you know what? I don't want to. I don't, therefore, I don't need to, and I'm not going to. If somebody wants to try the experiment and cut out all coffee, all tea, and have literally water, salt, and muscle meat, go for it. There's lots of evidence that this can be powerful and effective, not only for fat loss and burning and, building your muscle up, but improving your health. Now, I have found a great improvement to my health without having to let go of coffee. I do typically drink it black if I have any. Um, I try to keep my cappuccinos to one a day. I'm trying to keep it to every other day and just some good black coffee. But other than that, that is my one little vice. I've occasionally had a little bit of cheese here and there, like not even enough to count really, because I don't eat it regularly. Normally, it's ground beef, egg yolks, bacon. That's it. Sometimes we'll have donors, like donor meat, kebab meat, if you will. Um, that's what I'll order if we go out. So I'll get the kebab meat, and obviously not the wrap itself, just the meat. It's delicious and it's filling and it's fatty because it's lamb based. Okay, even if it's beef based, same thing. But that's an occasional treat. Otherwise, that's what I have. I try to avoid sauces. I don't use gravy or mayonnaise or any of that sort of thing. And same with salad. I don't eat it. I do like vegetables, but I've come to have to accept they don't like me back. They irritate my bowel. They set off my IBS, and they never get digested fully or properly. And so I just don't eat them. If you are able to and you like them and they're helping you feel good, keep doing it. Obviously, keep doing it, please. But if you don't feel good and you are trying to change something, it might help, right? Um, so for me, not only have I been able to go without my compression gloves for a whole week now, I have been able to stand up to shower every single day for almost 3 weeks now without any additional pain at all, which I never thought would happen. As I've shared in some of my other videos and live streams, back in 2016, in November of 2016, we had to have a shower chair fitted for our shower, which is over a tub, because it was too painful for me to stand up and shower. It hurt my back too much. I couldn't do it. I couldn't straighten up. And not only that, but from 2016 all the way up until March of 2020, I not only had to sit in a bath swivel seat, I had to have a personal care worker come in and help me wash my hair and get dressed every day because I was in pain. Just that motion alone would cause me unspeakable pain shooting through my body. And this was in addition to the fact I was already taking painkillers. I was already taking gabapentin and cocodamol, which is paracetamol or Tylenol threes with codeine. I was already taking that. I was already on sertraline to not only help with the anxiety and the depression that I was struggling with, but it was also supposed to help act as a signal blocker to reduce the amount of pain signals my brain was sending to parts of my body. And yet, I was in pain all the time. And it just got worse and worse as time went by. And I can barely even believe that that was me. When we were in Porto for uh, 4.5 days, and we spent a day in Lisbon before we flew home. But while we were in Lisbon, we found where we were going to go for dinner. We got an Uber and we went there. And I took my crutch. I was tired of having to either lug the chair around in a car or more so for my poor husband to have to try to push me up the hills. If you've never been to Portugal, it is extremely hilly. Okay. Like it's super hilly. It is extremely hilly for somebody who is not in a wheelchair or on crutches. Never mind if you are. Okay. There were some sort of flat-ish areas. We were not very far from the center of town in Porto. And so my husband had to push me up a bit of a hill, and then it was kind of flat and twisty like that. But in Lisbon, where we were, not too far from town center, it was just massively steep. Where we had to get to was like major hillage. And I'm like, no, doesn't matter how much weight I've lost. That is going to be way too much for him. So, okay, fine. We'll get an Uber. We'll go to the place we want to go for food. And we did. But then we wanted to find somewhere kind of cool to hang out and have coffee later, right? And we asked some people, did they live here? Did they know where there was a place we could go? And they said, oh, yeah, it's maybe a 5-minute walk. It's just up the street about a block. Turn the corner and you're there. And I thought to myself, I want to try. I want to see how I do. I've got my crutch to keep my balance. Let me see how I do. And I am beyond belief excited that I walked for almost, I don't know, I think it must have taken us up to 5 minutes because we went slowly. The cobblestones were a bit slippery. They were a bit wet. And I was holding onto my husband's arm, and I had my crutch for balance, but I walked. I walked for those few minutes to this really cool place called Lost Inn. So Lost and then IN. And when we went inside of the restaurant, upstairs and out the back, they had like this patio area that was built around a massive tree. So like all the branches spread out over top of us. And even though it was raining, we were outside, but we were dry. And we stopped and we had really nice espresso. And it was really cool to do that. But I did not get any rebound pain, not even the next day, not even the next day. And I had never thought that that was possible. I had never thought it was possible. Now, I think that maybe if I keep eating well, if I keep practicing standing up straight, having proper posture, making sure I stretch back my shoulders, strengthen my core, and build up those muscles, I think it's possible that there will come a day where I will not only be able to walk very slowly for a few minutes, holding my husband in a crutch, but I will be able to walk around full stop by myself on my own. That if we go back to Porto or somewhere else in Portugal, I want to go back determined to walk on my own strength with no crutch, no wheelchair, not needing to hold my husband's arm or hand other than we want to be romantic. And so that's why we're doing it, but not because I need to the balance or the support. I hope that soon, maybe even by the end of the summer. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what God's plan is or if it's going to happen that quickly or not. And I have to be careful I don't overdo it because if I do, I will feel pain. But what I'm hoping is that over the next few weeks and months, I will have enough strength that I'll be able to start walking a little bit more. And a day will come where I don't need my wheelchair any longer. That is my hope. Because I'm amazing? Absolutely not. Is it simply because I'm taking the medication I was told to? No. Is it because um, just because I'm eating meat? No. But I am eating only animal meats and eggs. I am staying on the medications as I've been told to, and until someday when that might change. And more importantly, it's because I know that God can do this. He is the great physician, the ultimate healer. How do I know? Proof positive. I walked for a couple of minutes while I was on holiday without any extra pain. Now, if we had gone further or longer, probably, because I have not walked any sort of distance in 9 years because I have not been able to. But now there's a possibility maybe I will. God can do anything. I believe He designed my body and everyone else's to be able to heal itself if we take care of it. Now, you might be seeing this blotchiness here. Okay, well, a couple of things. I'm going to address that. I'm not going to cover it up or pretend like it's not there. It's there. Most likely, my body is now starting to dump out oxalates because I ate vegetables and leafy greens and things like broccoli and mushrooms and spinach ever since I was a small kid. So I've got like 45 years worth of vegetables to clear out of my system. And I've only stopped eating them within the last couple of years. Okay, so I think that's partly what the blotchiness is. Also, in when we were in Porto, we went to this really cool restaurant called Teatro, which is it used to be an old library. They've kept the library areas looking like a library, but you go in and it's a restaurant. And I guess they used to have shows there as well. Really nice place. But the burger that I ordered, I didn't even think to ask, but there was garlic in the mayonnaise sort of sauce that went on it, and I ate it before I asked. And this is also my body trying to get rid of the garlic. I can't do garlic because this, I mean, it was bright red. My whole face sort of got blotchy. So it's almost, the garlic thing is almost gone. Thank goodness. But that's how amazing God is. And maybe not every day, but while we were on holiday, I spent some time trying to go through and practice Ukrainian almost every day, even just a little bit, because I want to learn this language. I've now noticed a lot of Ukrainians here in Colchester. And of course, I have a couple of new friends who are from the Ukraine, and they're learning English. But you know what? If I can learn Ukrainian as well, why not? Right? We can help each other. And I don't know. I feel like it's going to come in handy at some point. But what I do know for sure is God continues to heal. And even those moments where maybe I can't measure it or I can't necessarily see it, He's still working. You know, I found out today that the wife of a friend of ours has gone backwards in her pain. She was starting to get a little better, and then she went back in reverse. She's had a death in the family, a near death in her family. She's got something massive coming up this fall. And also, she is dealing with stress and PTSD and depression and just things that I feel a horrible bout. And I hope and pray, obviously for her. I know right now she won't be seeing this, but I do hope and pray that she will get better. And not only that, I hope she might even be willing to give God and eating meat a chance to help her. That's my hope. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. But it reminds me that I was at her place not that long ago, as far as brain fog, depression, not wanting to do anything, go anywhere, just feeling like forget it, it's over. This is decided. This is my life. It sucks, whatever. And never thinking that I could ever possibly move forward. And yet God has worked and he continues to work. And wow, I've been able to move forward to this place. So whether this gets any better, I don't know. I'm not God. I don't know what he has planned for me. I think ultimately he would like to help me get fully recovered, right? That's how he designed my body, all of our bodies. There are certain things that we don't easily heal from, such as, for example, cancer, but I don't have cancer. And there are so many people who have reversed autoimmune conditions and things like mood disorders and anxiety and depression and eating disorders and all of that simply by nourishing their bodies the way God has, oh, by the way, God has wanted us to do, has always intended for us to do, by eating the animal meats, the skeletal muscle meat, with the fat it comes with, maybe throwing in some eggs as well for extra fat and protein. Certainly, yes, water, salt to taste. If you drink tea or coffee or an occasional glass of red wine or whatever else, that's your call, right? But definitely the meat and clean water and the eggs. And it's amazing what he can help do, what things he can help us reverse when we don't eat the processed fast food, brain fog inducing crap that keeps us floating through life without living it and enjoying it. I know I've been there. I've been there. I don't know if this has been of any help at all. I hope it has. I really just wanted to thank you guys so much for all of your support and all your words of encouragement, and just say that, look, give it a try. Please give it a try. I know the first little bit, the first few days at least, will suck if you are a heavy carbon sugar eater. And you may not even think you are until you try to cut it out or cut it back dramatically. And then you'll realize, wow, I put a lot of sucrose, fructose, and carbohydrate based crap in my mouth. I didn't realize that until I realized that. But I promise you it gets better. Your energy levels will improve with time. Your brain fog will reduce with time. I suspect you'll find your pain reduces. Will it fully reverse? I don't know. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. It probably depends on what type of pain, how long you've had it for, um, you know, any damage that may have been caused internally will play a part. But it's possible, it is possible for the body to heal itself if it's given enough time to do so with the proper medicine, which for me, absolutely is eating the meat and praying and walking with God. Those go together. Okay. Anyways, guys, that was it for me today. Thank you so much for your likes and your support. I hope you're all doing really well. I really do. And if you're not at the moment, that's okay too. You know, you can be a faithful Christian and have times where you struggle to have faith. You can struggle to be grateful and have joy. It happens. It does not mean you do not love God. It does not mean that you are not a faithful person of God. It means you having a struggle maybe, yes, maybe you need to pray more, but maybe you need to be kind to yourself. Maybe there are some medications you might need to take. I take medication for my anxiety and depression. There is no shame in that. There is no sin in that. God created the people who invented these medications, right? And with that, guys, I will wrap up and wish you all a great day. And I hope to be back very soon with some more live content. And I'll talk to you then. Bye for now. Hello.